EE World, I'm Senior Technical Editor Martin Rowe. The building behind me is the public library at the city of New Bedford, Massachusetts. This library had a book returned recently that had been taken out for roughly 118, 16, 20 years. We're not sure exactly. And you may have heard about this in the popular press. I heard about it in the New York Times. But what's interesting from a EE perspective is the book is the treatise written by James Clerk Maxwell. We all know Maxwell. He's one of the electrical heroes, as I call them, who developed, among other things, Maxwell's equations. This building has been the library since 1906. It was built in the 1800s. And New Bedford is it's an old whaling town, if you don't know, and I'll show you. We're near the sea, and if you look all the way up there at the top of City Hall, you'll see there's actually a seagull up there. And in front of the building is this statue, and the statue says, "A dead whale or a stove boat." New Bedford is the town made famous for its whaling, specifically from Herman Melville's Moby Dick. And now let's go inside and take a look at the work by Maxwell that was recently returned to the library. We are in the office of Olivia Melo, who is the director of the New Bedford, Massachusetts Public Library. And she's going to give us a story of how the library ended up getting back, after 120 odd years, a book by James Clerk Maxwell, who we all know as for Maxwell's equations. So Olivia, can you tell us the story about how the library ended up getting the book back after so long?
Yes, so we were contacted by the rare books curator at the West Virginia University. They had received a donation of books, and they were alerted to possibly there being a couple of books in the donations that belonged to other libraries. The curator found the book, saw that it would belong to the New Bedford Library, did not find a withdrawn stamp, which would have designated that it was a book that had been discarded from our collection. Therefore, as all librarians know, if there is no withdrawn stamp, that means that the book still belongs to the institution. So they did pretty much what we do a lot of times, which is we reach out to the owning institution to ask if they would like their material returned. And in this case, we accepted, and we're very happy to have the book back, as it was a works that was added to our original collection in 1883. And hearing that it was in rarely good condition, we thought it would be great to have it back. Upon receiving it, and being happy at how it looked, is when we started to delve into what the content of the book was. And it was fascinating to discover a little bit of history about Maxwell, which neither I nor Jody Goodman, the history room librarian, had taken the time to ask the rare books curator about. We just were happy to see the physical shape of the book.
Well, coming from the world of electrical engineering and physics, this book is very special. And yes, the content is available in many places online. You can download it from Amazon for less than 20 or for $10, I believe. So the content is out there, but the book itself makes it a little bit special. And I thought it was worth making the trip to come here to see the book today. So I'm hoping we can do that. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. We would be more than happy to show you the book, which has been in existence since 1881.
And as I understand it, the New Bedford Library purchased this book in 1882.
Correct. It was added into the collection in 1882.
It seems unusual for a book like this to be in a public library. I could see it in a university library, in a science and engineering library. I wish I could ask your predecessor why it was purchased back in 1882, but I guess that's one of the things we'll never know.
We won't, but I can give you a little thought on it.
Go ahead.
So this library that we send in today, the Free Public Library, began as the social library. The social library was located across the street from us right now, which is currently the City Hall. And at that time in the 1900s, that was what was available to the community, was the social library. So I gathered a guess it was somebody that had an interest in electricity. And these were the people that were wanting to learn more about the history of electricity. It could have been an academic, it could have been a teacher, or it could have just been a young person interested in how electricity came to be. The book, though, was kept. We were closed for a renovation in 1906, so I believe that it's quite possible the person meant to return it, and while we were going under a renovation, meaning that the social library was moving from across the street to this building, we opened our doors to the public, became a free public library in 1906. And that potentially the book just got shelved and got forgotten, and great for us that somebody took good care of it.
Well, everyone who's ever done anything with electricity in their career owes at least some of that to Maxwell. So let's go take a look at the book.
The book you are looking at is one of the early original copies of James Clerk Maxwell's A Treatise on Electricity and Magnetism. We all know Maxwell from his equations. This book was published in 1881. The library acquired this copy in 1882. Someone took out the book in either 1904, 1905, and the book was lost until very recently. Let me read you what Joseph Keithley had to say about Maxwell. Between 1865 and 1871, Maxwell wrote most of his A Treatise on Electricity and Magnetism. It was his greatest work and slowly became widely acclaimed. Maxwell wrote in the preface to the first edition, this is the first edition, that his objective in writing the treatise was to discuss the whole subject of electricity, magnetism, and light in a methodical manner to explain how each of them and their effects could be measured and verified. The first edition was published, according to this, in 1873. Maxwell did not write the treatise to be a normal textbook, but rather a collection of exercises to help him think and reason through fields, circuits, tests, and theorems in electricity and magnetism. This treatise contains interesting sketches of measuring instruments and diagrams of the circuits that the instruments were measuring, as well as many diagrams of the electric lines of force and the equipotential surfaces. The treatise was first published by the Clarendon Press, while Newton's Principia is the most famous book on physics. Maxwell's treatise became almost as famous, with almost as many copies sold. And you can see this diagram right here. This diagram appears in the book that from what I just read, written by Joseph Keithley, called The Story of Electrical and Magnetic Measurements. Of course, Maxwell developed 8 equations, which we use as 4, and you can see them right here. And there they are. Now you won't find these in the book because these are updated from the original 8.